Welcome to week one of Player Coach Connection weekly video sessions talking about all things sports, recruiting, NIL, and Player Coach Connection. My name's Tyler Notch. I am one of the co-founders. I was a college basketball coach at the junior college level for 5 years. Most recently, got to work with this mug over here, Matt Williams at South Plains. We were there for 3 years together. Went to a Final Four and the Elite Eight. We're ranked number one in the country 2 out of the 3 years we were there, and ranked in the top 10 all 3 years that I was there. I've also been at Indiana State as the director of basketball operations, and really just wanted to give back to the sports community that gave to me so much. And so that was one of the reasons why I started Player Coach Connection. So Matt, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, as Tyler was saying, we worked together for 3 years at South Plains. I did 4 years total. The year before Tyler got there, we were fortunate enough to win national title. Before that, I was at Georgia Highlands, which was another great experience for me. I was there for 4 years as well, and our last 3 years, we made it to national tournament each year. Had two Final Four runs. And then my final year of coaching this past year, I was up at Indian Hills, which was awesome. I had a great year up there with Hank and all the people involved with Indian Hills, which is if you're familiar with Indian Hills at all, community support, administrative support. It's a JUCO town. It's an awesome environment. So that year for me was a great experience as well, just like South Plains and everybody that I met there, the community there, the administration there, and then same thing with Georgia Highlands. Another family-like environment where people that I'm still in touch with to the day. And probably people that we'll have on here at some point. So JUCO was always really good to me throughout the 9 or 10 years. Had success, and then kind of transitioning out of the coaching side, but still wanted to stay involved with sports and use the knowledge that I've gained over the years and connections and things like that to try to help athletes and coaches, and then stay involved with sports. So that was really appealing to me, and something I'm looking forward to doing.
Yeah, so I know when we kind of were talking about going through and starting this business, I've been at a lot of different levels: Division 3, Division 1, junior college. And I mean, I got started like everyone playing basketball and really loving to play. And I know when I initially wanted to start the company, it was to kind of help kids from smaller backgrounds, that are kind of underrepresented. And I was from a small town in Wyoming, and we didn't get recruited. And so that was kind of one of the things that I thought was missing, and a lot of kids weren't given the opportunity, whether it's going to a big school or a small school, just being able to continue on, get more exposure. And then one of the other things was just the fact that there's no international basis. There's no one out there that really does a good job of helping these international students get over to the States. And basketball's grown, and sports in general have grown to be a worldwide thing. And so, I'm really excited about it because we get to offer this to, the world, and be able to give a little bit more exposure. I mean, since you've been in coaching for 10 different years, you've seen kids from all over the world and all over the United States. And, kind of, I mean, what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on helping these kids out? And, do you think that it's a good product in the future for where you've been?
Yeah, I think international uh, basketball and sports in general is continuing to grow. I can remember, just I guess it was 2 years ago now. I was in the mix for a Division 1 assistant spot, and I was kind of writing out my resume and, guys I've recruited and where they're from and, things like that, just trying to kind of pump myself up. And I remember, I had almost the same amount of guys from different countries that I recruited as different states, within the United States. Because when you're at the higher JUCOs, obviously international is huge. Division I transfers are huge, and then as well as different obviously high schools around the country, different states and things like that. But really the point is, there's really good players everywhere. Being able to, as coaches, recruiters, being able to find them, but then as well as the whole process of getting international players into school and getting them the proper documents, and just how hard of a process it is. And if you don't have experience with it, or you've never even heard about it as a player or as a coach, it can be really challenging. So I think it's something unique that we can do to help players and coaches. And then just, like you said, from being small town Wyoming, I'm upstate New York, uh, where, if you're not from New York City, people don't really think about New York. But, the point of that is basically there's a lot of schools out there. It's just there's a lot of different levels. There's however many schools that we end up talking about in different levels, one division I, II, III, junior college, NAIA, however you end up going to school, whatever level. So there's a lot of options out there for everybody. So it's pretty cool that we can try to help the coaches and athletes all around the country and world with that.
So, I mean, how hard is it to recruit? I mean, because I know when you and I were working together, one of the things that I struggled with was the how many people I knew in the business, and I think that's one thing that you really excelled at was, you knew so many different individuals and so many different coaches and stuff that, you called them up and you would get a list of players and you would get their names and stuff. I know from my standpoint, where I didn't have as many connections at the start of it, something like this would have been huge to get a list of, a bunch of different players and stuff like that. Because I mean, in the coaching industry, it's who you know and who knows you to be able to get the best of the best players, and if you don't, then you're going to struggle. And some of those kids that aren't on these recruiting boards and stuff like that kind of get underrepresented. So, so I go back to that question: how hard is it to recruit, and how hard is it to get recruited?
Yeah, no, I think it's challenging on both sides. There's a lot of obviously politics and different things involved. Where if you don't go to a big school, it's harder. Or obviously now the way it is with the transfer portal, if you're a Division I transfer that walked on and got into two games when the games were essentially over, one way or the other, win or loss, if you get in the transfer portal, there's going to be more schools that know about you as a walk on than you did coming out of high school. So the portal's big, and I understand why, because everyone wants to get older. Everyone wants to have an old roster and stay old. So obviously, it's a big advantage for coaches now, where you can bring in 3, 4, 5, 6 older guys every year that have experience, have been away from home, have been coached, know what study hall, know what 6 a.m. workouts, 8 a.m. class, like they understand it. So that transition typically is smoother. So it's just making it harder and harder for guys, whether they're prep school guys, international guys, high school guys, to get exposure. And then also when you do get to school, it's making it even harder to be able to play right away. So I think you're seeing that at every level, especially the higher end schools at each level, high end JUCO, high D2, high D1, whatever it is. It's hard to be a young guy, 18, 19, fresh out of prep school, straight from an international country or right out of high school, to be able to play, to get a spot, to get looks. I mean, you got to be, it's a challenge. So yeah, I mean, that's why I think we're so excited about this, to try to help some of those guys, because they're getting recruited less and less. people are looking for those players less and less. So obviously, the more exposure that they can get, just increases their chances. And then I think it helps coaches too, because the more kids you know about, the better you can be at your job, hopefully. So even me, I guess when I started at Georgia Highlands, JJ Merritt was our other assistant, and he was way more connected than me, and he was an Atlanta area guy. So we would go to events like every week, every weekend we'd be at an event. We kind of like work like different events along the way to make a little extra cash, but then we'd just be networking and networking. I'd meet people through him, and that helped me a lot because when I went to South Plains, we're in West Texas, 5 hours west of Dallas. There's not you're going to drive 5 or 6 hours to get to an event. So we didn't get to go out on the road as much. So already kind of having those connections going into South Plains and then being able to keep up with them and being able to recruit every year. You got to recruit 5, 6, 7, 8 guys a year. So even if, there's probably 10 guys a year that I recruit that I don't get, well, I've had to meet 10 new people. I've had to build 10 new relationships, and then, they tell you about something. They tell you about this person. So it just keeps building over time. So I think more than anything, it's just the more years you do it, the more people you meet. And then if you're able to help the guys that you recruit, treat them the right way, they get moved on, they graduate, they move on. You just kind of keep building from there. I don't know. I mean, it's just something that takes time for sure. You got to
Yeah.
get lucky along the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about kind of what we're doing right now, what we offer. I mean, we've talked about the recruiting services. So obviously, we're focused on, the high school level is kind of what we've talked about. One thing I know we've been talking about a lot is our excitement that we just unveiled our JUCO women's side. I know I'm really excited about it because I think that population is very, very underrepresented, junior college women's basketball players. And there's a lot of really good ones out there for, the guys side of things. And I don't really think the girls have anything like that. And so I'm excited because we can kind of be that liaison and really help progress, women's basketball, women's junior college basketball. And I mean, I think we got two really good guys running that side of things. Kind of what are your thoughts on that? And those two guys, you could kind of talk about them and introduce them a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think women's basketball overall, is underrepresented from, the standpoint of exposure, like you're talking about. I mean, I think there's definitely, some guys out there that do a good job, and they run their own scouting services, and they're connected and they help kids.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's not as many, and it's something that we feel like we can get as many girls as possible kind of involved with the database and with the recruiting site. And then, once we continue to grow that, and use the technology and you simplify the process for 4-year schools, and as well as simplifying the process for JUCO women who are trying to get recruited, I think it just makes sense because we understand obviously with the JUCO players that we had, getting them recruited, and then we understand what 4-year schools are looking for and how to make their life easier. So hopefully they, continue to use, our resources to help, the athletes that we have that are involved with our company. So yeah, I think it's just going to be good overall, to be able to use kind of what we've learned as JUCO coaches in the business and use, our technology and our resources and our website. And then having, two guys that are former college coaches, Demetrius Colson, he worked on the women's side when I was at Georgia Highlands. So, we've been friends for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years now. And, I've been in the gym with him. So I understand his knowledge. I understand how hard he works. I've seen him win championships. I've been in the stands while he's winning on the women's side. So, he knows what's going on. He's connected. He knows a lot of people, and he understands the process just like we do. And then Bryce, obviously competed against him when he was at Odessa, and then he's been at 3 or 4 different schools, been at the 4-year level. So he's recruited players to JUCO, and then he's recruited from JUCO. So I think him kind of knowing both sides and him being connected, him just being a grinder, uh, I think that'll just help. So those two guys together, I think they're going to do some big things and really help out a lot of athletes and a lot of coaches.
I think that's you made a good point when you talked about simplifying things. I think especially in today's day and age with the use of technologies and things like that, people try to overcomplicate everything. And I think that at the end of the day, everything is what we tried to do with PCC was simplify the process, make it so that there's one place where college coaches can go to find a list, a good list of players all over the world. And then on the flip side, it gives a place for these student athletes to create a profile that they're not charged thousands of dollars to create. They're not
Correct.
charged exorbitant amounts of money to just be on a site where coaches are going to potentially see them or not. And so I think being that liaison and simplifying that process, I think you made a good point on that, because at the end of the day, the simpler the better. I know you and I as coaches, we would get how many emails every day of different players, and it ends up getting kind of complicated because it's like, okay, well, what player you may want to watch a film of a guy that says he's 6'6", or you may get a film of someone who isn't as tall, and you're like, well, I don't know, we don't really need that. But you want to watch all the films because you want to find that hidden gem, or you want to be able to at least give those kids the courtesy, because I know you and we didn't probably have that courtesy as a 5'11" guy. I mean, I sure as heck didn't really get recruited, to any high levels and things like that. So, the simplification, I think, really, really will help these student athletes and the coaches to be able to just go to the database and search for what they're looking for. And it opens it up to all the levels of colleges and not just the big schools, but all levels. And if you just want to simply play, it's something that some of those smaller schools that can't go out to a Wyoming to see a player, they can see it on film, and then they can say, hey, we're interested in you coming on and just being a member of the team. And I know there's a lot of players out there that would love something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Simple is definitely good during the process. And I think for athletes out there, obviously not everyone's going Division 1. Not everyone's going high major. Not everybody's going Division 2. I mean, it's just it is what it is. It's hard to
Yeah.
play. There's a limited amount of spots, and there's a lot of really good players out there. So if you're an athlete, even you think about our backgrounds, growing up in smaller towns. I mean, we didn't know about all the schools out there. You know about the schools in your area, and then you know about the schools you see on TV. So
Yep.
who yeah, you might email 25 schools, but they might not be recruiting your position, or they might have an All-American that plays at your position, or they might have already signed somebody to come in the next year, or whatever it might be. So, you're kind of limiting yourself by just sending out emails. But if you go on a platform and you can build your own profile and kind of promote yourself, and do it the right way, and then be accessible to every school. I mean, you never know. Like there's a lot of schools out there that me and you have never heard of.
Yeah.
Never had a connection with, never met an assistant, never met a head coach, never competed against them. So, for people that have been in the business for 10 plus years, we don't know everybody.
Yeah.
So, if you can promote yourself and give yourself an opportunity, with all the levels, I mean, who knows what could happen? There's no guarantee, obviously, but you're giving yourself, hopefully a better opportunity to be able to move on and continue to play. And, who knows what could happen? All you need is one chance. So why not get in on a platform that gives you a higher, chance to catch a break.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect segue, talking about promotion, promoting yourself. I think that's a perfect segue to talk about the next thing that we offer right now, and that's NIL services, our NIL marketplace. Um, that's something I know that we've talked. Oh, I don't know how many hours you and I have talked about NIL, and talked about it with amongst ourselves, done our research, talked with our lawyers about it. I mean, gotten our NIL marketplace up and running. I mean, that's something that you talk about promoting. Um, that's all NIL is you got to do a good job of promoting yourself, and that's something that we're going to help with. And that's I think really pretty cool, and something a little bit different is that we're actually going to go through and say, hey, you need to clean up a social media account, or you should do this, or you should do that, and really help foster and broker some of these NIL deals, because as we talk about, NIL is not going anywhere, and might as well utilize it to your advantage, and go and promote yourself and create your free profile, and go make some money. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, there's girls players out there that aren't going pro because they can stay in college and make more money than they would in the pros.
Yeah,
And there's men's players out there that probably will make more money in college, than they will starting out as a professional. You're not everyone's a lottery pick. Not everybody's going to be, on a draft board. So there's some guys that let's face it, they might go overseas and might not make a lot of money, and they might not really like living overseas. But if you can go to college and you can get a free education, you get to play on TV, I mean, and you can make some money along the way, I don't see it's a pretty good deal to me. So, yeah, I think we'll be able to help out a lot of college players, teams, rosters as we continue to build on what we've built so far. Obviously, it's going to take time, and but like you said, NIL is not going to go away. It's going to continue to expand. Obviously, there'll be some changes made, I'm sure. So we'll just have to kind of navigate it as we go. But that's the nice thing with us being JUCO guys. I mean, we had to put out fires every day. You never know. Your phone might ring at 11:30 p.m. and it might be a disaster that you got to fix, or it might go off at 6 a.m. It's a
yeah,
24/7, 365, job to make sure things are going smooth and make sure all the players are ready and make sure they get to the game and make sure you win. So, with us, doing this company and running this business, adjustments will have to be made. We're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to pivot. But obviously with our backgrounds, that's what we did on a daily basis and we had success doing it. So we'll try to do the same thing and help out as many athletes and coaches along the way.
yeah. I mean, and we'll talk about this a little more in depth in future episodes, obviously. Um, but just so everyone knows, I would assume a lot of people know, but it is what it is. NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And so, with that being said, you can now, based on your name, your image, and/or likeness, you can now start getting compensated from companies, local companies, national companies, friends and family, to utilize your name, image, and likeness. So one of the things that's a perfect example is using TikTok to shout out a company or something like that. So, kind of what we're doing with our NIL stuff is we're fostering those relationships. We're working with programs, we're working with universities, we're working with individual student athletes as well. Doesn't matter what sport, we're working with everyone to help build up their NIL platform, to give them and help along with their business. Because at the end of the day, if you're getting NIL money, you're running your own business. So being able to kind of help navigate that and be that liaison, be that person, those individuals that are helping these kids, make some money. I mean, shoot, you could be a golfer at a Division III school and could have 100,000 followers on TikTok or something, and you can make some NIL money, and that's kind of the cool thing with the NIL right now, and something that you and I have talked about, being able to help more athletes navigate that stuff, and more schools and more programs specifically.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of going back to what we were talking about before, it's going to take time. It's brand
Yep.
new for everybody. Every program's going through it. Think about all the coaches that we talk to, athletes that we talk to. I mean, we've obviously been, on calls with athletic directors and people higher up in athletic departments, and it's like this is all brand new.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the beauty of it, is as we can continue to change and help as many people as possible and figure out the best way to do different things because no one really knows. So, if we can try our best and, handle things the right way and do what's best for everybody involved, I think it can be really, really successful as we continue to grow. But, kind of same thing going back to your point, like, NIL is not going anywhere. Obviously we give an opportunity to kind of help athletes figure it out. And then I think we can also help programs and coaches specifically because, as we know from our time as college coaches, we had to wear a lot of hats.
Yep.
It's hard to make sure guys are in class. You're running study hall, you're running individual workouts. You're doing your own recruiting. You're trying to get the next scouting report done. If you're an assistant, you got your head coach telling you certain things you need to do. A guy might need a ride to Walmart, guy might need this, guy might need that. So you have a million different things going on, and you haven't even talked about trying to win or lose a game yet. And not only that, now you throw NIL in. If you got guys coming to you saying, "Hey, like I need help with this, I need help with that," like that's just more of a burden that's been put on coaching staffs. So if we can make it easier for them, and at the end of the day, it helps their program if their athletes are receiving NIL money. Like let's not pretend it doesn't help in recruiting.
Mhm.
So obviously, if we can kind of help them where they don't have to be involved, obviously there's rules where they can only have a certain level of involvement. But you know, let's also be honest; those athletes are probably coming to those coaches saying like, "Hey, I need some help." So they're in a tough situation. Athletes are in a tough situation. Obviously there's guys out there that are lottery picks or are going to be draft picks. Like their NIL money is going to come regardless. I mean, people know who they are, but there's a lot of other athletes out there that maybe they're freshmen or maybe they are sophomores and juniors have been playing behind really good players. They don't have as big of a name, but they're marketable. They could definitely they know a lot of people know them, they have social media followings like you talked about, whatever it might be. So I think there's a lot of athletes out there that with it being so brand new, they might not know what to do, or they might not know how to approach certain things. And then obviously there's
Mhm.
programs with it being brand new, so coaches and athletic departments might not know exactly the best way to handle things. So if we can kind of make the process smoother and simpler, more effective on both sides, and I think we can be a huge help.
Yeah. So, where do we go from here? Where's PCC going? I mean, we've talked about a lot of different places, a lot of different implementations. Um, you know, where do we go? How do we continue to grow?
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do as a company. We don't want to just stay in men's and women's basketball and NIL. We want to grow this to help everyone. So I mean, where do we go?
yeah. I think we just got to keep growing, do it the right way. Do it without just trying to add a bunch of different things, and it's not effective. I think that would be the worst thing we can do. So just doing things the right way, growing the right way, and obviously there's a lot of sports out there that need help in different areas. So if we can kind of be the bridge, as we have been saying in some of our advertising, just to make the process simpler for coaches and athletes at all levels and all sports. I mean, I think is needed. I think it would bring value to everybody involved in the process. And I think with our experience and our knowledge and connections that we have through our time in athletics, college athletics, I think we're definitely capable of doing that. So, obviously, me and you both have new ideas almost every day. So, yeah, there's no telling. We're going to have to continue to make changes and pivot and take our time and do things the right way. Nothing to be built overnight. But if we can go about it the right way and have a plan in place and just keep following it, I think we can help a lot of people out there. And it's something that I know we're looking forward to doing, just con- continuing to grow and seeing what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, next week we'll visit with our hopefully both of our JUCO women's basketball director and ambassador can join the call. But we'll kind of talk about that. We'll go through the junior college women's basketball side of things and talk about how that's going, how that process is going, and how we're going to be able to help out that population. And then from there, we'll do weekly episodes, talk about everything, talk about all kinds of different stuff. We'll have guest appearances. I know you and I have talked about having some of our former players on who are at some high levels. Maybe get on a couple coaches. We can get some Division I coaches on here, Division II, Division III, JUCO, every level. And I think that that's going to really help a lot of people out, when we go through and do these weekly episodes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, same thing. Like, we don't
Yep.
know exactly what we're going to do every week. I think that's the fun part about it is you can make changes and you can figure it out, and you don't have to get stuck on a certain thing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like coaching. You might go into one week thinking you're going to do one thing, and 24 hours later, that's scrapped. It's time
And
for a
you know how
change.
much I love the non-planning aspect. That's
Yeah.
the most fun thing.
Yeah, we
I
get to do a little
love.
bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a
uh,
plan, but make adjustments. So,
yeah.
yeah, we'll be able to figure it out. It's exciting. It's fun. It'd be fun to get our, whether it's former coworkers or former players we coach, or people within the industry, just sports industry in general, that we have relationships with, visiting with them, learning from them, getting their opinion on things, and, being able to help, the other people that are listening in. Maybe they can pick up something from a coach or from a
Yeah.
athlete or whatever it might be. You never know. Who knows? But it'll be fun. It'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, we'll start up. Starting next week. See what we can do.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's episode 1. Hope we didn't do too bad of a job. We'll get better as we go along. We'll definitely get better, and we'll be back next week again to talk about some more different things. Like I said, we'll focus on the women's JUCO basketball side next week. All right.